so I think like thinking in this way and what we're talking about and what we get excited about, it's hard to put that kind of perspective on a very hard reality that we're living in now, right? Like with like political, socioeconomical, racial,
yes,
all this stuff. It's like the gap between talking about 12 dimensions and like aliens. So like racism and systematic racism, like it just, you can't.
Hi everyone. Welcome to a very belated new episode of
As
Woo As
You
Want. I kind of wanted to yell there, but I don't want to disturb anyone. With
Celine and
Monsieur Jeremiah.
Oh, Deca.
Yeah. We got to get a little loopy. We got to loosen up.
Yeah, we just got to shoot from the hip, you know?
All right. Well, hi, everyone. Oh, man. First,
it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, and I do want to apologize. I feel like I hope we didn't let anyone down. Celine and I are good friends, so we talk about the podcast all the time, and we're very aware of, like, you know, we've been doing a monthly release schedule, and I mean, I don't know where you are, but here on Earth, since our episode with Debbie about dancercism, Debbie Atias, which was towards the end of May, no, the beginning of May.
God.
It's been a while. That was the last episode. A lot has happened.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there just wasn't anything cool to talk about, really, in terms of, that's not true. I just didn't know what to say, you know, and like, I think we are here now because we're just kind of going to kind of just like talk about what we've been doing, how we've been sort of maneuvering this time, and it's just such a delicate, volatile time, I would say.
Yeah.
And so it was hard to do our monthly things because, you know, Jared and I are tuned in, but like we also were just like learning with everyone else, I guess. Right?
Yes.
You know, and like, yeah, I just didn't feel like it was appropriate sort of to have a pod talking about, we're a woo pod, and it was hard to figure out a good lens to put on everything.
Yeah, I think so. We talked about this, what we were going to do with this episode, and Celine had a really good point, which was like, there's kind of, we're in a state where it's like, it's kind of hard to see. It's like weirdly, on the one hand, I think a lot of things are becoming clearer for a lot of people, but on the other hand, it's like really fucking unclear what's going on, and it's very hard to get a take from, you know, multiple perspectives, not just the spiritual perspective. And you know, so there's a part of me that feels bad. I hope, you know, we didn't let anyone down. I know it's been like a very tumultuous few months, and you know, if anyone was kind of like looking forward to hearing from us, like I do honestly really apologize. The last thing I'd want to do is like disappoint listeners. The flip side of it is like, we were also in the same boat, and I think, like you were saying, like processing and learning along, and
I mean, you know, like, also I think it's an interesting time to have a voice, right? Like, or to be on a platform, not like that we have a big platform at all, but, you know, I think Jared and I talked on the phone earlier this week or sometime this week, and you know, the amount of like, I guess a part of me also didn't really want to do a pod because nothing that like you can say about anything that's happening right now, you'll always be kind of, someone will always think you're wrong, right?
Yes.
And like, and maybe you are or whatever, you know, and like to be in that place and to open yourself up and be vulnerable and like how we talk so candidly on the pod, you know, and like I just didn't feel comfortable being that vulnerable to a bunch of strangers, you know, at that point. And I don't know, it's such a weird time. People that have to do that, or, you know, everybody's getting in trouble for everything.
Yeah.
So it's just a really like woofarama, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's very touchy. And like the cancel culture is for me, it's something I have like a real issue with, because I understand, look, everyone fucking makes mistakes. We're all human. We're all learning. We're all growing. There's been injustices in this world that have not been fixed, that have not been addressed, that have not been fully taken care of. And there's a lot of suffering going on. That said, the attitude of just like shutting someone down or shaming someone, I have a real issue with, because you deny the person the ability to learn and grow from their mistake. And it's a flip of the very thing that you are against. You know, it's like by treating the person in that way, you're essentially just recreating the negativity. And we're really lacking empathy right now. And I feel like that was like, honestly, one thing I really wanted to talk about, and I'm glad we're just getting it out now, is like this culture needs empathy.
Yeah, but also accountability. And like, I think that we don't know how to, and I know you're not saying like, no worries, whatever, but like, you know, I think that we haven't figured out how to hold people accountable for their actions in a way that helps them, that doesn't automatically just punish them. But like, I do think a lot of people should be punished. But you know, it's tough, right? Because like we live in this kind of cultural space that like everything is black or white, yes or no, good or bad, and like then we treat things according to that. But like when you get down to the nitty gritty of it, like there's no, the world isn't that way, you know. Like there are fundamental things that are just horrible and unjust and whatnot, but you know, it's like when we were talking on the phone the other day about social injustice, and then when you like have an umbrella and then you get down to like each individual person, everything changes.
Yeah.
So it's like almost thinking about outer space. You're like, it's like mind blowing, you know, like we're all these like little units having different experiences, and then we're trying to have an umbrella to describe everything. And it just, I don't know, it doesn't really work.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like a really fascinating kind of realization that I had while we were talking together.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the elephant in the room is the whole racism thing that's been happening, which is, it's nothing new, but it's the awakening that I think a lot of white people are happening, and realizing how complicit they are in a system that's been perpetuated for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then the intersection of that with patriarchy, with capitalism, these are huge structures that have been around for a really long time, and you're seeing cracks in the foundations, and it's disorienting for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to be in this place now, and we're in a collapse.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's very scary at the same time. But then I do think, you know, eventually the outcome will be new and interesting and just and whatnot. But like, I don't think it's going to get any cooler anytime soon.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know?
but this is like the flip side of this is like, we've been talking about this. Like, this is nothing new. Like, I highly recommend if people are, you know, if people do want to get like a little bit of a spiritual grasp on what's going on, listen to the 2-parter with Abdi. I mean, he really goes into it because it's about the shadow. We're in the shadow. We've talked about this before. America is going through its Pluto return. There's stuff happening with Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter. You can hear it on, you know, the podcast with Leslie. We talk about it too. Like, it's not just like, we're not just paying lip service. Like, these planets are in there and they're doing these things. Like, this is it. Like, this is what happens when you go through a Pluto return. Like, America is falling apart. It just has to happen.
Yeah. I mean it just in terms of like just being present with what's happening and not being like in thinking or rationalizing or trying to understand. Like, it's really wild to just be, it's like we're in the middle of a fucking hurricane. Ooh, sorry, I cursed.
What? I curse all the time.
I know, but I feel like there was one episode that I listened to and I was like cursing a lot. And I was like, you know what? Cool it, Celine.
Honestly, I think literally in our first episode, I dropped an F-bomb and I like very quickly was like, this is a disclaimer. Like, we will be cursing. We're New Yorkers. Come on. Like, it's going to happen.
I know. I just didn't want to do it too much. I don't know if I'm describing I don't know if I'm saying what I feel properly. It's like, I almost feel like we're in the eye of a hurricane. And like, it's just kind of still right now, but like you can see it's not over, you know? It's just, I never sort of, I don't know. It's just, it's very like wild to me to be like, oh, this is the stuff that I've always talked about or knew was going to happen in some way. And it's here. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we talk. You're always like, I love shadow work. I love it.
I love it. And now it's like, boom. And I'm like, do I
like it? Yeah. No one likes it.
Not really. But there's part of me. Yeah.
No, but there's a part of your soul. I mean, that's the thing where it's very hard, I think, for if you're just living in a egoic place where you think of yourself as just this atomic being, and you don't have a conception of there's something larger that's like part of your evolutionary progress, it's not going to make sense. But if you do understand that like there is something greater than you, if you want to call it God, if you want to call it your oversoul, whatever, that is kind of like pushing you through this situation, for me, that actually brings me comfort. And so, like, the shadow work is easier to digest because you go, this is so fucking hard, but I know in some part of my, you know, soul, in my brain, whatever, in my body, I know that this is going to take me to a level that I need to get to.
Great segue, because as I mentioned earlier, I have something that I want to read.
Beautiful.
From a SETH book.
Our favorite.
Oh my God. Yeah. Dreams, Evolution, and Value Fulfillment, Volume 1. So it's just, it's a good time because this like passage I read definitely correlates to what you're saying about being an individual, but then understanding the whole.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah. Ready? A man who believes life has little meaning quickly leaves life, and a meaningless existence could never produce life. Nor was the universe created for one species alone, by a God who is simply a supervisor of the same species, as willful and destructive as man at his worst. Instead, you have an inner dimension of activity, a vast field of multidimensional creativity, a creator that becomes a portion of each of its creations, and yet a creator that is greater than the sum of its parts, a creator that can know itself as a mouse in a field, or as the field, or as the continent upon which the field rests, or as the planet that holds the continent, or as the universe that holds the world. A force that is yet divisible, that is one and the inconceivable many. A force that is eternal and mortal at once. A force that plunges headlong into its own creativity, forming the seasons and experiencing them as well, glorifying in individuation, and yet always aware of the great unity that is within and beyond and through all experiences of the individual. A force from which each moment, past and future, flow out every conceivable direction.
Wow.
I mean, what?
That's so poetic.
Isn't that so, like, I read it a few days ago, and I was just like, I've never heard anything described in that manner about humans, Earth, consciousness. And it's just like you can visualize that, right? Like a mouse in a field, the continent, the Earth, the universe. So I feel like, you know, I think that if you kind of understand, if you can step back from like the reactivity and the emotional witnessing, sometimes, I mean, we have to witness and we have to be active and we have to like do our part and vote, etc., protest, whatever. But if you can take a time and sort of sit and like just feel like just how we're all just like these like branches of this like giant tree, you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like we have to, you know, not like gaslighting with like vibrate and just be in light and whatever, you know, like, but like sit with like the horror in a way, but also know that it's bigger too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, again, like, maybe I'm starting to sound like a broken record. Why I'm doing this podcast, I don't know. Maybe why I even incarnated. Like, this stuff, this makes more sense to me than the consensus reality of, like, do your job, go home, you know, fuck your wife, have the kids, like, you know, like, make the money and whatever. Sorry if I offended anyone, but, like...
I love that you had, like, a slightly Southern accent.
Sorry, yeah, I know. That was kind of offensive. Sorry, Southerners.
No.
But, like...
It's fine.
I'm a Yankee completely. Or a commie pink Jewish man. But
I mean, but the thing is like, though, yes, we resonate with like these ideas, but we're also part of the consensus, right?
Well, that's what I loved about this passage is like, I think in a lot of ways there's a breakdown of the individualism that's happening right now, where people are realizing like you are part of something. You're not by yourself here. Like, we are all in this together. And when a certain subset, you know, if it's Black people, brown people, people of color, indigenous people, people who are, you know, trans, queer, like anything, are not being treated in the same way, like, you know, you're affecting yourself. That's the deep truth that for me is like, and that's again, this comes back to the empathy and the cancel culture. When you start, you know, the negativity that you exert outside, ultimately that's actually you're essentially attacking an externalized aspect of your own shadow. And then two, that's part of you. We're all part of each other. So when you treat other people that way, it's how you treat yourself.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, any kind of hate you have towards someone else is because it's part of you that you hate.
Yeah. And so, again, like Abdi talked about that. Like, it's, and so it's like, he's like, it's wild because you're literally seeing people who the aspects of their shadow selves that they haven't healed, that they haven't welcomed in, they externalize it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that we're just in the moment where we all kind of have to do our work.
Yeah. And it's, I think part of it too is we're all also like what's intense about it is and humbling is we're all blind to a certain extent, right? Like we're all awakening. If you're not like waking up in some respect, if you're not like seeing something that you didn't see before, I'm not really sure like what planet you're on. Like I feel like it's things are clarifying, at least for me in a lot of ways. And it's humbling. It's amazing. I'm like so grateful for it, to hear just like the experiences of other people and how that is like reflecting back at me and like where my place is in society and like what I can do to like rectify that stuff. I don't know. I really appreciate it. And like it's an incredibly painful time, but there's also something I think so encouraging that's happening right now, and it just seems so necessary, so necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's speeding up a lot now because we're so much more connected than we have been. Meaning,
yes.
We have
the internet.
Internet, right? And like social media and all this stuff. And like all the bad parts about social media are still the same, but it has enabled people who wouldn't see what is happening to see and to have a reaction, right? And like, so I think there's a momentum building. And I think being able to see things with social media has like enabled a movement of change to be encouraged, and hopefully it will have some benefits in the future. So it's just kind of a nuts time. I don't know, and I think that's probably why we didn't do a podcast for a couple months. Like Jeremiah and I were just like, whoa, we like need to take time. We need to take space. We need to like process and deal with our own accountability for whatever that was, like.
Yeah. I think there was, and there still is, there's just the reality that like, we're probably going to say something that hurts someone. And I that pains me. It pains me to know that like, no matter how good my intentions are, I will still harm someone.
Yeah. Though, that's probably always been the case. We've just never really thought about it before.
Yeah.
As much as now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yes.
So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Sorry.
That's the topic. That's going to be the topic of this episode. I don't know.
I don't know.
Episode 27. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, it's just the truth,
But that's beautiful, because how many people say, I know? This culture is like, I know. No, I know. I know. It's like, admit you don't know. Like,
yeah.
People don't admit that they don't know.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know but I do know what's happening. I just don't know what will happen.
Yeah.
And yeah. I also think it's been interesting too, because, with the pandy, also there's been this
hold on. Pandy is pandemic, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm just, if people don't know what you're saying.
I know. I wish they did. I wish we would just all call it the pandy. It's so much more engaging.
Approachable.
Yeah, it's so much. But I think there's been an element of self-reflection that hasn't been able to happen in a very long time with a lot of people. Everybody.
Huge. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I won't go too deep into it, but like, at least from my perspective, the pandemic has afforded. It's grinding so many systems to a halt, right? And that biggest one is capitalism. Like, I feel
boy.
The pandemic is really showing you in so many different areas. Do you care more about profits or do you care more about people? And that's like really, really, really clear if it wasn't clear before. I mean, this has been going on for a very long time. It's also affording the, people the ability and the energy to focus on, racial injustice, all kinds of discrimination in terms of not just race, but also income inequality. And like, there's just so much that like halting that, halting that just like day in, day out, like going back to my example earlier of like the 9 to 5 guy, like that's being halted. Like, stop.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore. Look what's happening in your backyard.
Well, I mean, the problem though is, sure, that's great, but like, how do you like feed yourself or pay your rent if like it's halted?
Yes, that's why it's so intense.
Yeah, it's like, and there's it's so, if you can't support yourself, right? Like, oh my God. It's just bonkers.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I love dark stuff and I love like destruction, obviously talk about it all the time, but it also makes me sad. I also feel very sad for everybody that's not in the place of privilege that I am, that's like really suffering with our economy being in the toilet, and
absolutely.
But it will enable, hopefully, the system to change, and like we'll get to a better, equal, just society. But it's just like going through that tunnel is like can be brutal.
Yeah, it's really.
Sorry, that was such a Debbie Downer statement I just made.
You have to say it. It's life or death. I mean, again, like shadow is death. Shadow is death. It's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you bring up that point that like you and I come from a place of privilege to be able to have even the comfort and ability to have a perspective like this. The flip side is just something else I feel like I need to get off my chest is like Black, brown people and people of color and indigenous people have amazing woo traditions.
100%.
That have been so like disrespected, so like not taken into consideration for so long.
Or like appropriated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like that kind of stuff, those are such important traditions that I hope and pray are like becoming more the norm again.
I think they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think they really went anywhere. I think it's just that we didn't know about them.
Yeah. I think there's, Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. And like, you've been experiencing it. I've been experiencing it. Like, it's hard, man. There's a lot of turmoil right now.
There is. There totally is. But I talked to one of my like client/friends a few weeks ago who coincidentally has like the same placement of planets. Like we have the same exact chart.
What?
I know. Yeah, I know. It's wild.
Wow.
And I've always like really felt connected to her, and like anyway, we figured out through a series of events like that we had the same chart, and I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
And we did a check-in last week because I haven't seen her in a while because of the pandemic, and I haven't been working. And she was like, you know what, Celine, like as triple Capricorns, this is our time to lead. And I was like, okay. And she was like, we got to give healing and people space and their traumas. We have, like we can, she almost gave me like a pep talk.
Cool.
On like, it was really rad. And I think that there's a lot of people doing that right now. And I think that's so wonderful because in a lot of ways, I feel like my ruling move for the last like few months has been like fear. I've been like really in a fear space. And I think I'm getting out of it, but I guess I'm bringing it up because I'm just impressed with the people who are just doing all the things and going all the places and like really coming at it from a place of love, right? And not out of fear.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's part, again, like with all the isms kind of being taken apart, like I think patriarchy is definitely one where you're seeing it in so many different respects. Like, I mean, I don't know if there's so much stuff out now with like different, you know, teachers who are being outed. And so like, there was this paradigm of like the guru, right? Like you have this, and that's a very masculine kind of idea where you have like this externalized person who's, you know, supposed to be like the authority and the person of power, and like you are their disciple, and like that's being flipped. And I feel like it's so important that people are, you know, realizing their own power.
I think, you know, I think it's happening. I do.
Huge.
I also think that's like Aquarian energy, right?
Yes.
Piscean energy is all like outside, your, you know, savior is outside of yourself. And now I think people are getting, you know, more into personal power.
Yeah. Yeah. Leslie talked about that with the Aquarian age. She's like, you know, it's been 2,000 years of us thinking like God is outside, and now we're like, oh wait, no, God's inside. And that's like a huge adjustment.
Yeah, that's a pretty big adjustment.
Pretty big. It's 2,000 years. You know, again, like these things are like it. Like it helps though. I feel like the perspective helps because you go, oh, okay, I'm like a blip in this like timeline, but I can like understand my place in it a bit more.
Or I'm an important blip.
Everyone,
right? You know,
back
like,
to your Seth, the Seth quote.
Oh, this is like my favorite thing I've ever read in my life.
We're all crucial. Like we're all part of all that is, right? That's the expression that Seth uses.
What are those, like little dolls, or like those? It's like an egg, and then you open up an egg. It's like, what are those called?
They're Russian dolls.
Oh, Russian dolls. I feel like it's almost like akin to that, like the perspective of being a human on the earth within a group of people within a galaxy. You know, like it's just, I don't know. I think that's a good analogy. And it makes it seem, I feel like it's more manageable. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's another feature of patriarchy. I mean, individualism is patriarchy, right? Like, and I think this is the flip of that, where it's, again, like, it's about the collective.
I know. We got to get back to the collective.
And that's like, the pandemic is a beautiful, you know, and tragic and insane reality that is making us come to terms with that.
Yeah. Oh.
That's kind of why I began this podcast, like just airy, and like you got to shake it up, you know, like you got to keep the energy moving, and like the heaviness is important, but also like, you can't always be heavy. You got to like move around and break out.
Yeah, what was that expression? YOLO.
Is this beautiful spiritual acronym?
This really wonderfully
very yogic,
not made fun of. I used to make fun of it all the time. But yeah, we gotta be like a little like air babies.
Yeah.
Not so earthy.
Yeah, it's a combination of both. I mean, I've been having, I don't know, the past couple weeks particularly, like I definitely feel like something's been shaken up in my psyche, where I'm like, I'm having I had a dream. I didn't tell you. I had like dreams like there were aliens. It was pretty sick.
I'm so upset. Like I am not remembering my dreams as much as I normally do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like downloading happening right now.
Okay, maybe because I was like, am I losing my touch?
No.
Okay, thanks.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say the last month or so, it's teetering for me between like excitement and motivation and then utter devastation.
Yeah.
It's like I did a tarot card for myself the other day, and I got the Two of Swords, which is like, it can either be really good or it can be really bad. And I was like, it just makes sense. I'm realizing so much about my own personal psyche in a way that I haven't really thought about myself in a very long time.
Wow.
So I feel like it's healing, right? Or like, I don't know. Again, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
no, but it's great to have all of these modalities, which we've talked about on all these episodes, that can help you, navigate some of what's occurring.
Yeah. And help you, be more decisive, or to trust your intuition more, or to let something go that you've been working on. It's not working out. Just let it go. Yeah.
That's a hard one. Just let it
let it go. I feel
go.
like people say let it go, and then I think it actually takes like months to let something go.
Oh my God.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
No. I mean, it depends. Like everyone's different. There's certain things that just, you gotta be patient, man. You gotta be patient. Like, we're so impatient. We're so impatient. Like, this stuff takes time. It takes time to integrate change.
Well, I mean, or you could just like kind of try to enter another dimension, a parallel dimension that wouldn't take so much time.
Maybe.
I've been trying to for the last couple months. I'm just not getting there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like some quantum physics-y stuff.
I mean, I do think to a certain extent there is some kind of breakdown happening with the fourth dimension.
I think it's like I almost feel like it's like the Two of Swords. Like if you're good or like leaning towards being good, it's going to get better. But if you're not really good, I think you can get bad fast. Like the veil seems very thin in that regard.
Yes. Yeah. That's something that's interesting. That was something that like Melissa and I have talked about, where when the pandemic hit, like it really exploded a lot of things for people.
Yeah.
And I feel like her and I were talking about how we felt very fortunate that like we kind of exploded our own lives like a few years before. So there's been a lot of like stuff that we've been working through that has made this time not so intense. I mean, it's still freaking intense, but like, I've said it multiple times on this podcast. Like, for instance, just like the money stuff that I've been going through. Holy shit. If I hadn't been doing the work, all this money work that I'd been doing for the past few years, this time would have destroyed me. It would have destroyed me.
Or, you would have gotten through it. I mean, I feel like I think that as someone who is so earth-based, like I have so much earth in my like personality, like I'm so grounded and foundations, and like for me to invoke change in my life, it typically has to be really intense and bad, and I have to jump off a cliff.
You need an earthquake.
Oh.
Ba-da-ching! I think that's great.
That was my favorite thing I think you've ever said. But, so, for me, this was a time of cataclysmic change, and I changed a lot, and I've reshuffled stuff. But, not to devalue all the work you've done in all like the past, but like I think this is a different level of change. Like this is like heightened, right? Like,
well, yeah, I think
because like I feel like I've gone through many incarnations of traumas and changes over the last like I'd say like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah,
but nothing has earthquaked as much as this time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's different for everyone. I guess I say that only to your point about the Two of Swords, where, and again, this was something Abdi said, where he's like, if you're not doing shadow work, he's like, shit's gonna get real hard. So it's like, you kind of, this time is forcing you to face your shadow. Like, it just is. And if you're not willing to, it's just going to lead to more suffering.
Or it's just like, do the thing you've always said you were going to do. Now it's the time to do it, you know?
Expand on that.
Well, I feel like I guess this is mainly, it's coming from like a personal space too, but I feel like, you know, when the world feels like you're just like kind of cruising, it's fine. It could be better. You know, you're like, I kind of want to do this thing, but I could just like, you know, be copacetic with what's happening. Mm. I think that when a change and something rocks our culture and society so much, I think it might illuminate the thing you've always wanted to do. And you're like, well, time, what am I wasting my time doing if I'm not doing what I'm excited about or passionate about or what I know my potential could be?
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's, I mean, I hope that a lot of people have kind of are getting into that realization a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Right? You know? Because why not? You know, like, you know, I almost feel, I was describing this whole kind of like last 4 months as like being in a car that's going like 100 miles an hour straight towards like a burning house, you know, like buckle in, you know, and like, let's just ride this.
Yeah. It just like reminded me of Mad Max. Just like,
well, listen, not too far off, maybe. You know, I'm really hoping like some spaceships touch down. Don't you think? What was your alien dream? Are they coming?
Oh man, they like were there. I mean, what's crazy too is Melissa actually kind of had like I won't talk about her dream, but she had something that kind of like correlated with mine. It was pretty crazy, but like, sure, I don't mind sharing my dream, but basically like we were on like a spaceship or an airplane or something, and it was a few of us. It was like, I know Melissa was there. It was a number of other people in my world and also strangers. And there was a kind of, I think there was a lot of unease with a lot of people because they felt like there was something else kind of like, we were essentially being abducted.
Yeah, and, I know. It sounds like it.
Yeah, we were being abducted. And I think I also felt that at first, but then I was like, I love this. To your point with Seth, like, and this is the thing that I think people don't get with aliens. I think we think of it in such a third dimensional way. Is my view on aliens is like, you know, a lot of people are like either they don't exist or they do exist. And if they do exist, then they're, you know, going to destroy us or something. Or like, why haven't we found them? I honestly think we are dumb. Like when it comes to like intelligent life forms in the universe, in the multiverse, we are very, very low on the spectrum. And so I think aliens are here. They've been here and they live amongst us, but we're just so blind.
Well, I also feel like we couldn't handle it.
Yes. And so this is, yeah.
That's what you mean. Not to say we're dumb.
Yes. Well,
just, like,
so to your point, and Bashar talks about this too, where I had a realization in my dream, to your point also with the Seth thing, where it's like, the alien is me. I am the alien. We are one. So in some respect, if you can get over the fourth dimensional aspect of time and death and rebirth, it is all, this is going to sound like a hippie thing, but like, it's all love. And so there was some realization I had where like, oh no, the aliens are here to help us.
Like
and
in the dream.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh shit, they're here to help us. And basically, Celine, you're going to freak, but
I'm so excited by this conversation right now.
but basically they were like, once I realized that, I was like, oh my God, they're here because they're future selves of us that are concerned about our well-being at this moment. And they don't want us to destroy ourselves. And so they're abducting us to like help us on our journey. I'm getting chills to help us in this time right now. And I literally, Celine, I'm not lying. They showed me this schematic of like it was like angular line drawings. It was like very complicated, like geometrical like map. I really, and then there were like numbers, and like I was like, this is the key. It was almost like every individual who looks at it will like understand almost like their blueprint and like how to like move forward in this time, and like, but
jealous.
But in the dream, I like remember looking at it and being like, I know this is it, but like my human brain cannot decipher.
Wait a second. Okay. I can't believe first that you didn't call me immediately. I'm upset.
Because it was for the podcast. Maybe other people were on the trip with me and they'll be like, hey, I was also on that plane or spaceship.
Huh. Did you see them or you just felt them?
So I definitely saw them. I feel like, again, like kind of from a limited human perspective.
Yeah.
They kind of looked like the aliens from Mars Attacks.
Like the tiny guys?
Yeah. I don't think they actually look like that, but I think it was more like,
oh, I love that
my personality was like, okay, you need like an image, like here's
it
like
has to be like,
silly,
yeah, like fun. It has to be kind of fun.
Here's like a silly like Hollywood rendition of like what we look like.
And you don't have to tell me, but like Melissa had a similar dream.
She basically, she basically had a dream like our bed
was it on the same night?
Yeah, that our bed was like a spaceship.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts because I don't have dreams like that. I don't have dreams of aliens or anything like that. And, like there are times where like last night I don't remember any of my dreams, but like I try and record them. And I feel like, we did a dream episode, but I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, well, you know how much I love dreams. We're talking about my two favorite things here, dreams and aliens.
But, like, I think the thing that, like, I was kind of telling Melissa this, too, where there's a part of me that, like, is starting to not just understand on an intellectual level, but, like, in a body level. Like, the dream is as real as this reality.
Yeah. I mean, think about what I'm reading right now. Dreams, evolution, and value fulfillment. And it's all, like, talking about in the beginning of human experiencing on Earth, we would use dreaming to like figure out where things were, like water and food. And it was like, we all used the same collective dream map.
Right.
And then it started to become individual. And like now we're so disconnected from that other world because we're just laser focused in this reality,
Yes. I love that you said laser focused because it made me think of in the SETH book, Dreams, Projections, and something or other. It's like a later book that Robert Butts kind of collated after Jane Roberts passed. It starts off with Seth describing humans as being beings with eyes in the front, but also eyes in the back. And so like you saying like that. Laser focus, it's again, it's like we're so focused in this reality, we don't pay attention to what's behind us. We don't pay attention to what's in our unconscious, but it's equally as valid and equally as important.
Yeah, I mean, I think just as a society, we're not encouraged, we're not encouraged to think about that stuff, right? And if we are, people are like, I don't want to hear about your dreams. And I'm
Right.
like, well, you should. We should all hear about each other's dreams.
Yeah.
Like it's just wild.
Yeah, like
I don't know, man. Being a human being is like real bonkers.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's really beautiful. Like when I shared that other dream with you during our call, like it was just so nice. Like it was so I don't know. I think people have apprehension about it. It reveals too much about who they are, but like if you're really close to someone, it's just like a beautiful additional dimension when you're both open to that being a equally valid part of your existence. And like I don't know, it was just like we had a beautiful exchange where I was like, that informed the dream, and I feel like makes the dream reality closer to this reality. Like that's another thing Seth talks about in I think it's Eternal Validity of the Soul. He actually like gives kind of like a health regimen. And he talks about how like your sleep cycles should be shorter.
Oh yeah, I know, right? And you should sleep more, right?
You should sleep more often, but shorter amounts of time.
Yeah.
And he's like that not only will help you like physically, but it'll also break down the barrier between this reality and your sleeping reality.
I'm surprised I didn't try to do that.
I did for a bit. It's an adjustment. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with like a work schedule,
Capitalism. No, for real.
No, I know. I'm not. I just love it. I love that you're like capitalist. Fucking capitalist.
I'm a Jewish commie bastard. No. But it's because the human. There was an article a few years ago about how the natural human sleep cycle is actually it's not a full 8 hours of sleep.
It's like 4 hours, right?
Yeah, it's 4 hours, and then there's an hour around like 2 or 3 a.m., and then another 4 hours of waking time, and then there's another...
Oh, you wake up at 2, and then okay.
Yeah. That's like normal. And so I feel like a lot of people struggle with like insomnia and stuff like that.
Oh, right.
And it's not their fault. Again, like the culture I think is teaching you a reality that's not real. It's a reality that the Matrix wants you to believe is real.
That's more accurate. God, the Matrix was really like a wacky movie, huh? If you think about it.
I mean,
I'm surprised they made it.
I think that's why it was so big, because people were like, "Oh shit, this is like resonating."
We know. Keanu Reeves, huh? What a guy.
What a hunk.
Oh, you don't like him?
No, I love him.
Oh.
No, I was saying what a hunk.
He had a really nice thing to say about death once.
Loved it.
Do you know what was it? It was like someone asked him what he thought happened after someone died, and he said, I don't know, but what was it? The people miss them? Or
yeah, that
so
the people who loved you will miss you.
Sweet.
Something like that. We're not doing it justice at all. It was way more eloquent.
It was so sweet, but yeah, I mean, let's hope that in 100 years, the world is a very different but cool place. Yeah. Hopefully, like if we have kids or kids who have kids, I think this, like, it's going to take some generations to create a new Matrix.
Yes.
And I mean, it's kind of cool to be living in the beginning of it, right? I try to tell myself that to make myself feel better.
I think we're like smack dab in the middle of it, like.
Yeah, maybe. I just can't tell. Yeah. I mean, in some respects.
Middle and beginning. What does it matter? Like, that's so.
Right. Time is just a construct. I know. I just wish I could switch time.
It's crazy. I mean, this is the shit I think about. Like, literally a day ago, I was like really thinking about the fourth dimension, and I was like, holy shit! Like, just if you can get your mind out of time, and then you realize, like, literally there's scientific proof that there's like, I don't know, what is it,
No
11 or 12 dimensions in terms of string theory?
I think it's 12, right?
Yeah, something like that, right? So like time is the fourth. There's like 8 more dimensions. Do you understand how limited we are in the way we're perceiving reality? It's really limited.
Or flip side, how powerfully cool we are to be able to generate such a strong lasered focus in one reality that we think there's nothing else. We've like tricked ourselves so deeply into believing that this is it.
I fucking love that you said that.
I think because, you know, like we are limited, but we're also fucking generating this. So
you're so on point.
Don't you think so? Thank you. Thank you. But, you know, those kind of ideas are so far beyond. So I think like thinking in this way and what we're talking about and what we get excited about, it's hard to put that kind of perspective on a very hard reality that we're living in now, right? Like with like political, socioeconomical, racial,
yes,
all this stuff. It's like the gap between talking about 12 dimensions and like aliens. So like racism and systematic racism, like it just, you can't. So
really beautifully put. I think that's honestly that's it. I think that's it. That's the episode. Like you nailed it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's why we didn't have a pod for a bit.
Yeah. And it takes skill. It takes skill to be able to navigate.
Right. And we're just two pals just shooting the breeze. Like we don't have that skill or vocabulary to, you know.
Yeah, that's like kind of to your point about like who's the authority.
Yeah, well, you know, and I love authority. I love knowing rules. And
right.
So there aren't any right now, and so it's you know, I'm getting more comfortable with uncertainty.
Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I haven't meditated a lot. And I meditated the other day and I was like, oh, okay, this is where I need to be. Because it makes you get out of time, right? You're just present and you're just feeling. It's very powerful. I mean, obviously. Well, okay, so let's see. We usually do stuff for people to do every day.
Yeah.
I think that everybody should just vote. That's what I'm going to promote.
Love it.
Yeah.
Please register to vote. Please register to vote. Please register to vote. Like, it drives me insane. Drives me insane that people are like, voting's bullshit.
I mean, maybe it's bullshit, but like, we gotta at least try. You know?
We gotta try. And honestly, like, you need to honor. I just wanna say, like, rest in power, John Lewis. I just have to say that. Like, if you don't know who John Lewis is, you need to stop this podcast and Google him right now. The man
absolutely
was a saint. He worked his entire life for racial justice. Just an unbelievable individual. And like the people who don't vote, you're tarnishing a man like that, his legacy. He worked so hard to make sure that everyone has an equal right to vote. And so when you don't vote, you're really disrespecting people who worked incredibly hard to make sure you have equal rights. And for me, it just drives me off the wall. Like, I don't think people understand. Like, they take democracy for granted. They're like, whatever, it's fine.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
You don't realize the power and the importance of your vote is just crucial. So I think, one, Vote.
Vote.
2, fill out the census.
Okay, yep, for sure.
Please.
Also, as a fun little side note, I saw that John Lewis would go to, oh my God, like conventions with like kids, like cosplay stuff. And then he would march them around and he would wear the same outfit. And I was like, you are a fucking saint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, you could look at pictures of that and it would make you feel happy.
Yes.
Vote, fill out the census, and write down your dreams. See what happens. That would be cool. All right. Well, sorry if I said anything dumb, but just being myself.
Yeah, same here. If we hurt anyone, we don't mean it. We really don't. And you can call us out on it for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Tell us.
But we hope like you got some insight from that or just were able to kind of commiserate with us. We know how fucking insane this time is. And, you know, just take care of yourself. Please know that we love you. There are a lot of people who just have good in their hearts. You see a lot of bullshit out there, but there are a lot more people who are just